So last video, 3x3 flush door. You know, I was like, man, it's too large and there's all these ones where I tried to make it smaller that don't work. What am I gonna do? Just want this door. So, you know, these smaller ones that don't work. It works. Okay, so this is the old design. It's not like the biggest redstone door ever in terms of all the redstone. It's still pretty compact, but I just thought I could do better, especially because it was like 4 blocks wide. And this block at the back is like so empty on most of it. There's just this kind of one line of redstone and then these torch towers. So the first thing I tried to do was make it 3 wide. And the way I did that was I made it activate from the top. And then this block with the redstone on it will activate both of the pistons below. On this side, we actually have 3 pistons pushing in from the side. And I use some observers powered from this bottom bit to power all of that. So this block comes in way later than the rest of them. And then I just have this kind of weird modified version of a 3x3 to do the rest. So if I actually remove the other blocks, there we go. So yeah, this one observer kind of sets off the entire bottom bit. And actually, that's a really good way I can show you it. So yeah, if we look, these pistons will all push blocks like this. So they'll push these blocks in. And then I used a kind of modified version of the bottom of a 3x3 door, a regular one, to push in these last 3 blocks. And that was the hardest part, was getting this bit really compact. But I've actually got it like super small. Because this bit at the bottom, it's only like, I mean, it's kind of only 2 blocks high because you've got the floor as well. I do have this one observer in the floor, which is a bit cheeky, but I use this space at the back for some of the observers. I use some of the pistons to set off other things. And also these pistons will permanently push up. So that actually blocks the sort of stuff that goes on the left side and this bottom piston pushing up when it closes. But then when it opens, they close, which allows all that stuff to go off. And as you can see, it's all very, very fast. So yeah, that was the kind of clever bit I had, was using this piston with the redstone block and keeping those pistons permanently powered, because then I can just set all these pistons off both times, except the first time they get blocked by those pistons, so they don't do anything even though the redstone was going off. But then the second time, they do. And that very fast double extender. Oh, and this double extender is a bit weird as well, because like on the first design, this double extender is just powered through this kind of repeater and then observer. So if I press this with a button, you can see we get a double extender. And that is literally like just this repeater, this observer, and this block. But on this design, the only way I could do that is by going another block below, and I didn't want to. So I managed to free up space and then do these sort of repeaters with these observers, sorry, with a repeater. And that means that they'll go off twice. And then these observers on this side, so they go off once from here. And then there's also a bit that goes all the way around the back and underneath and sets off that trapdoor again to set off this piston. But it has to be done at the right time because it has to kind of get updated. So that means it has to go off just as it pulls down to here. And then it'll be like, oh, I'm powered, and pull this block down. So in the end, you end up with this. And then if we just dump our blocks back in. No, damn it. There we go. Then the entire thing is just this lever. Damn it, I swapped one of these blocks. There should have been a block for glass. Oops. So yeah, if this was a block, there you go. So now the entire door's gone off, and then if we turn it off, not the fastest, but you know, it works. And then we've also got a lever on the other side, which will also close the door. Obviously not the best looking thing from the back. Okay, so to build it, you're going to need this 3x8 area. And then your floor is 3 blocks up at the front. So your door will get pushed into the wall like this. And the whole point is it's flush with the wall, so you'd have your wall around it like this. And then some kind of floor here. And the door would come out of that, like this. And then you also need 10 blocks of height above this bottom bit, so 3rd block up is your floor. And then you're going to need another 7 blocks above that for building. You're going to need the resources in my inventory, so 24 sticky pistons for a start for your pistons, 20 observers, 2 trapdoors, 2 note blocks. It's actually kind of important which is which. One of them can be either, but it's important to remember which one to use. Stone slabs, need 2 of those. Can be any slab, or also glass, because the properties are the same. It's basically to stop it powering stuff next to it. Need a block of redstone. And that's what permanently turns on our pistons at the bottom and off when it gets pulled and pushed by a piston. We also need target block just to make redstone aim the right direction on one part. We got 17 redstone dust, mainly at the top, 10 redstone repeaters, and then we need 30 building blocks that are solid for putting stuff on. And then you'll also need 9 more blocks for your door, and they can be whatever blocks you like, as long as they don't power things like observers or redstone blocks. Okay, so to start with, we're going to do our piston layout. So what we actually do with the bottom, a block gets pushed up, and then we have another block to the side, and these 2 get pushed in, and then that entire thing gets pushed up a block, and then the other blocks from the top get filled in around that. So to do that, we just do a double extender like this, going into the floor, then we do 1 piston aiming up next to the top of that. To the side of these, we have a block, which I did forget in my resources list, whoops. But we have this block here, and then we have a piston aiming at that block, and that'll push those blocks in. So again, what this is going to do is this, then this. So pushing those blocks across, and then finally they'll get pushed up to there. And then on the way down, pull these. But then we need to push them out the way so this block can come. So we just use a piston here to do that. So that'll push this block out so that these blocks go like this, and it'll take it back. And then the double extender will take that block back to there. Okay, so now if we're looking at the front, we go to the right hand side. Then we go diagonally above this piston to left, and then we go 1 block up, and we'll do 4 pistons like this, and then 2 pistons aiming forwards, and this will just push the top bit of our wall into there. Now if we're on the front and we go to the left side, we have to go all the way to the left, so 1 block next to this piston, and then diagonally above it, we have actually 6 pistons aiming sideways, then another 3 aiming at the front to push in these blocks here into our door. Okay, so for the top, on our left side again, we'll just go diagonally up 1 block, and then we have a piston aiming at the door. Then above that, we have a piston aiming downwards, and another one in front of that aiming downwards, and that pushes the block down, and then this piston will push the block across into the door. Okay, so moving on to the actual circuit, if we go to top pistons, place a block above, then go all the way to the left and do a block back, and there's 2 redstone on these, and this is where our inputs will be. So we'll have a lever here, and then on the other side you'd have a lever here. Obviously you might want to make it a bit more elegant, but that's the basic design. Okay, so on the sides we're also going to do these U shapes that are aiming at the back, and then there's redstone on either side. So this is our front, and then we're also going to do a repeater on this middle block aiming at the back pistons on 2 ticks. We also copy this on the other side. Now this is because if we turn on this one on the outside, that'll make these pistons come out and then push out. Same on this side. But obviously I make this middle one go off, so we have to make that one go off first. So to do that, from our input line of redstone, we have a target block. There's 1 block up at the back. Then on the other side of that, we have a block with a repeater on top, and then that goes into a block with a block on the other side. Now there's also redstone dust on this block above the front piston, and that's because that'll set this piston off, and then by a block update, because the block above it is powered, this piston will also get set off. Okay, so we also need to get the power to the bottom bits. So on the left side, we do that by having a block under the target block, and it has a repeater aiming to the middle, and that's on 2 ticks. Now on the left side, sorry, this block should have been a slab. So target, repeater, block, and then a slab with a repeater on it. That goes into a block, and then below that we have a block with redstone on top, and we block off this side here. So I want it to go to the middle first and then go to the outside via this repeater. So if we turn on our input now, then it will come out fine. But when we turn it off, the middle bit doesn't pull back up, so we need to delay these top ones turning off. So do that by just adding a redstone next to the target block, and then a repeater on 4 ticks. So now if we do it, it's all good. So if we put our blocks in to these top blocks we've done, we can see that the door will come out as we need. Okay, so the bottom bit is activated by these top pistons. And the first thing we're going to do is we're at the front now. So if we go to the right under these blocks that the door pushes in, we're going to do an observer aiming downwards. That goes into a trapdoor below it. Then an observer aiming across, and then a block here. So this is actually going to power this front piston here. So what we do is just a couple of slabs aiming backwards with redstone dust on them. So this observer will power that redstone dust, which will sell off the piston and push our block upwards 1 block. Okay, next we want this piston on the side to go off, because that block will be pushed up and we want these blocks to push to here. So to do that, we actually do an observer going sideways out of our first one aiming down, then one aiming sideways out of that, then one aiming down, and then one aiming across at that piston. Now we're also going to use this observer aiming down here, which is at the back, to power a piston with a redstone block. And that's going to power these 2 pistons via this redstone. And also then we have a block next to the redstone with a repeater, so when the redstone block gets pushed here, those 2 pistons get powered. So I'm just going to do this with blocks. So this block gets pushed up, then this piston gets off and pushes these blocks across. Then these 2 pistons will push everything up to there to fill in the gaps of the door. But obviously we need to sell off this left side here. Now to set off the left side, we are going to actually place some repeaters on top of observers, but those observers kind of do something later, so I'm going to use blocks for now, but this block is going to be an observer later. So the first thing we have is a block with a repeater on 4 ticks, and then we have a block that again will turn into an observer later magically, but for now we'll just use the block, and a repeater on 2 ticks. So on top of this node block, we have a redstone dust, and then next to that, we use a green block because this is actually powering this side bit, and it'll power this piston. And then 2 ticks later, this repeater goes off, and we'll use an observer to make that spit out the piston with this one. So it'll kind of be like this piston pushes this one on top of the green block, and then it gets powered, which means it pushes a block into the door. So to power the piston on the right side, that pushes the block out for the other piston to push, we just do an observer out the side. That goes into a note block with the redstone dust on top, and then a block to the side so that this piston gets powered. So those both get powered at the same time, like 1 observer of delay. Easy peasy. Okay, so this redstone serves another purpose, and that's to power this piston. So it'll push all the blocks across, and that's because when the door is open and the blocks are like this, the first thing that happens is these blocks get pulled down when these turn off, and then this piston will get set off by that redstone to push the blocks across. But the first time it can't because these pistons are extended and blocking it. But then we also have to set it off again to pull this block back in. So to do that, we actually make it set off a little earlier from this redstone at the back. On top of the note block, we do an observer aiming at the piston from there. And that'll mean it gets set off twice to kind of push the block out and then in. So if we set this off currently, this is what will happen. So as you can see, everything comes out fine, but when we pull it back, we just get that. And the final thing we have to do is the double extender. So this is a bit funky. So the first thing we do is detect these pistons have turned off, and we do that with an observer facing sideways. Then we also, diagonally below that, we have an observer facing downwards. So I'll place a block here for now and place the observer facing down. So that's aiming down at the floor. And then we place a repeater on top of that on 3 ticks. And then we have 2 observers coming out the side to power this bottom piston. So I'll push this piston up to here. So to power this piston when it gets here, we actually use an observer on this side, like this. And that gets powered by a trapdoor underneath it getting set off. This trapdoor will get powered by an observer, which gets triggered by a trapdoor underneath this note block on the left. So this is timed so that this observer goes off roughly just as this piston gets pushed up to here. So it'll pull the block down. Then obviously we need to, when this repeater turns off, this piston will get set off again, which will pull this piston down. And then we finally just need to set this trapdoor off again to power this block just as this piston gets pulled down, because then it'll be updated into pulling this block down. So to do that, we actually go to our left side and we do a really long observer chain. So from this trapdoor under the note block, we do an observer facing outwards. Then we actually swap the block this 2-tick repeater is on top of. for an observer. And we put our 2-tick repeater back, facing out to the side. So this is facing into nothing because its job is to sell off this observer. So then we'll also put our piston and block back in the side. So then we do another observer facing out to the side like this. Then we do another one underneath this 4-tick repeater. So then we place the 4-tick repeater back on top of it. And then finally, this might be a bit awkward, but if we go around the front where the trapdoor is, next to the double extender, we place an observer facing at the trapdoor. Okay, so if we pull the lever now. Yeah, okay. Here's what went wrong. So as you can see, this piston kind of pushed this piston out to the side. So we'll put that back. And yeah, just make sure this sticky piston didn't get pushed out one block to the side. And pull your blocks back like this. One important thing, when it's open, the redstone block at the back should be here, next to the piston. And when it's closed, the redstone block should be pushed out to here. So that's just a note. And if we pull the lever now, then it closes, and then we right click again, it opens. So if we close it and add in our blocks now, I'll just add some different color blocks just to make it clear where the door is. So we fill in our blocks like this and have our floor, and bam. There you go, we have a door. And obviously you'd want to fill in these holes in the floor so you could walk through. So again, on the other side, your lever is just this top bit of redstone. You need to power it. Don't pull it here, because then it'll power the redstone underneath, which won't be good. So now close from this side as well, and open. Alright, I've been iDied. Thanks for watching.